Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I will be doing the CSEc Principles of Accounts July 2021 paper 1. So this is going to be in a two-part video. So this is part 1 where we'll be covering the first 30 questions. So make sure you subscribe to my channel so that you know when part 2 is out. Also, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up by pressing the like button. So let's get into this paper. So the first question says, a trader had an opening capital of $3,900 if his drawings were $900 and his closing capital was $4,860. What was his net profit? So we know in order to find the net profit, we are going to have to less our opening capital from our closing capital, and then we add our drawings. So the figure that we have here, our closing capital is $4,860, and we subtract $3,900 from that, then that gives us $960. And then we add that to drawings 900. Therefore, our answer would be C, $1,860. Let's move on to question number 2. So here it says item 2 refers to the following balances at the end of a financial period. So here we're asked to calculate what is the total amount for the assets. So what are our assets in the given information here? So we know we have motor vehicle $2,000, receivables $2,000, and building $10,000. So that's a total of D. So motor vehicle, receivables 2124, and building 10,000. So that's 14,000. C would be your answer. So let's move on to number 3. Miss Hoyt, a grocer, bought a computer on credit from Tan Company. In Miss Hoyt's books, which of the following journal entries would be made for this transaction? So we know we would have to debit the computer account and credit Tan Company. So our answer would be D. Let's move on to number 4. Here it says, during the year, a company bought stationery for $220 and used $120 worth of it. What figure would be posted to the profit and loss account to represent the expenditure for stationery? So here we are dealing with the accrual concept. Now, and we know that have to do with what I've incurred. So therefore, it would have been the $120 that was used. So that would be B. Let's go on to number 5. It says the acid test ratio indicates. Now, what does the acid test ratio indicate? Well, we know the acid test ratio is actually a financial ratio that actually measures the ability of the firm's liquid current assets to pay short-term debts. So what would we actually use here as the definition for acid test ratio? So therefore, the formula would be A, net current assets less inventory available to pay current liabilities. right? Because the formula is actually current assets, then we less our stock and we divide that into our current liabilities. So A would actually fit that answer for us. Let's go to number 6. Which of the following items are examples of current liabilities? Now, this is an easy one. We know one mortgage that's not a current liability. So, accounts payable and accrued wages. So, the answer would be C. Let's go on to number 7. It says item 7 refers to the following balances from the books of J. Sammy, a sole trader at the end of a financial period. So there we have our, what do you notice? We have our current assets and we have current liabilities. Now we're asked, it says the current ratio of the business rounded to 2 decimal place is. So let's identify all as we know, to find the current ratio, because we know that the current ratio actually is a ratio that compares current assets with current liabilities. And the formula that we would use would be current assets divided into our current liabilities. So let's do a total of our current assets. So we have inventory 1,100, we have receivables $500, and cash $200. So when we add, that's a total of $1,800. What are our current liabilities? We have bank overdraft $400, payables $700. So that's a total of $1,100. And remember, our formula for current ratio is current assets divided by current liabilities. So we divide that 1,800 divided by 1,100, and they ask us to round to 2 decimal place. So we get 1.64 to 1. So the answer therefore would be B. Let's go to number 8. It says Merrill Industries operates on a 40-hour work shift per week. Overtime is paid at time and a half. Employees are paid $50 an hour. What is the gross pay of an employee who worked for 49 hours for the week? All right. So the work hour, 40 hour, and the rate is at $50. So that would give us a total of $2,000. But it says overtime is paid at time and a half. So if he worked 49 hours, therefore he did 9 hours overtime. So that 9 hours would be at time and a half rate. So the rate, as we know, is $50, and half of that would be 25. So there we have $75 times 9, which would give us 600, and we would add that $675 added to the $2,000, right? And that would give us $2,675. So is weekly wage or the basic wage, that's how we calculate it, times the rate, and then we would add that overtime to that figure. So that would give us his gross pay. Let's move on to number 9. Which of the following accounts are usually transferred to the income statement? So we know the income statement or the profit and loss. So what would be your answer? Our answer would be C, commission received, rent, and purchases. Let's move on to number 10. Which of the following items is or are a capital expenditure? So we know what is capital expenditure. We know is when a business spends money or add value to a fixed asset, right? So that's what capital expenditure really entails. So we know it would be D, purchase of machinery. Let's move on to number 11. So item 11 refers to the following information about the operation of a firm. Provision for doubtful debts on 1st of January 2020, $700. Receivables on 31st of December 2020, $25,000. The provision for doubtful debts is calculated at a rate of 2% of receivables. What amount would be recorded in the provision for doubtful debts account at year end? Now, this question sometimes pose a problem for students. Notice it says, what would we record in the provision for doubtful debts at the end of the year? Now, as we know, the figure that we would put in the balance sheet, that is what it is actually referring to. The figure that we would put in the balance sheet at the end of the year. So what would be the figure? So it would be the 2% of the year-end balance amount, which is $25,000. So 2% of that is $500. So D would be your answer. Debit $500. Let's move on to number 12. K. Can, a debtor of A and B enterprises, settles his debt of $120 less 2% discount by check. How should the double entry be recorded in the books of A and B enterprises? Now, we have seen this question before. So what we simply do, we know we would simply, what would go into the bank would be the difference after we find the 2.5% of $120. And that would give us the amount, and so it was a discount allowed that was offered. So we would debit discount allowed, which is $3, and credit K can $120. So C would be the answer. Let's move on to number 13. Partnerships are formed for the purpose of, we know, combining capital from different persons, yes. 2, benefiting from different skills and specializations, yes. 3, sharing ideas, experience, and responsibilities. So D would be the answer. Let's move on to number 14. Control accounts are kept in order to assist management in, we know there are various purposes that the control account are used. 1, we know A, locating errors, right? And we know that the control accounts 2, it assists with the preparation of the final accounts for the incomplete records, and it helps to prevent fraud. Those are just some ways, and there are many more ways. Let's move on to 15. Items 15 to 16 refer to the following statement of financial position provided for a firm as at the 1st of January 2019. So here, what do you notice that we have here? So we notice this is a representation. We have our balance sheet. So we notice we have our assets. So we have our debit and our credit sides. All right. So what is the sum that is presented at I, which is receivable? So what we simply do, we would deduct the debit side from the credit side. So that's a total of $6,000. So 4,000 subtract from 6,000 would give us 2,000. So the answer would be B. So just the difference between the two sides. 16 says, which of the following accounts is represented by 2? So we know that would be your capital. C. Number 17. A trader received an invoice for $4,000 less 25% trade discount. Subsequently, he returned 1/8 of the goods. What amount would he enter in his returns outwards account? So, $4,000. So we're going to less 25. So 25% of $4,000 would give us $1,000. Right? And then we would subtract that $1,000 from $4,000, which would give us $3,000. And we're asked, it says that he returned 1/8. So we find 1/8 of $3,000, and that would give us $375. Let's go to number 18. Says Mr. Abel and Mrs. Blue purchased goods on credit valued at $50 and $75 respectively from Mr. Kane. Another customer paid cash for goods amounting to $550. Mr. Kane took goods at cost for himself amounting to $500. Which of the following figures represents the total in Mr. Kane's sales account? So what we do, all right, so we would add or $50. So we're looking at Mr. Kane's sales account. So what would go there? The credit, that $50 that Mr. Blue purchased goods on credit, and $75 respectively from Mr. Kane. So that would go in his sales account. And it says another customer paid cash for goods. So that's another entry affecting his sales account. So $550. So we add those three totals together. What do we get? We get $675. C. Let's go to number 19. Which of the following accounts are nominal? This is an easy one. So we know it is A, wages and rent. Let's go to 20. Which of the following features is associated with private limited companies? So let's make this one plain and straight. So we know it would be B. This is the correct answer. Shares are not sold publicly. Let's go to number 21. In calculating the gross profit percentage, gross profit should be divided by, what do we divide the gross profit by? We know that is not A, cost of goods sold, nor B, net purchases. C says net profit. No. D would be the answer, net sales. Let's go to number 22. A standing order of $25 for insurance appears in the debit column of the bank statement. This amount does not appear in the cash book. How is this item treated in order to update the cash book? So in order to update the cash book, what is it that we would have to do? A says credit the bank account with $25. B says debit the bank account with $25. C says add $25 to the bank statement balance. D says subtract $25 from the bank statement balance. So therefore we know the correct thing would be to credit the bank account with $25. So A would be the answer. 23 says, which of the following entries would not appear in a cash book? So we know it would be B, goods sold on credit. Let's go to number 24. Mrs. Smith does not keep proper records. She began her business with $10,000 in its bank account. She uses her vehicle and building worth $6,000 and $15,000 respectively as part of her business. Customers owe her $4,000. She withdrew $1,500 for personal use and owed creditors $2,000. What is the closing capital of the business? Now, what is our accounting equation for capital? We know it's asset less liabilities. So assets subtract liabilities. Now, what are our assets? Now, we can see, first of all, in the bank, there was $10,000. So, and then we have motor vehicle. How much is motor vehicle? $6,000. Then we have building, $15,000. So that's a total of our assets, that's $21,000. Now, what's the liabilities? Now here we have drawings because it says she withdrew $1,500 for personal use. So that's drawings. And creditors, $2,000. So that's a total of $3,500. So when we subtract our liabilities, $3,500 from our assets, $21,000, what do we get? So I made an error. Are we missing out anything? So that's a total of, so we add, so we missed out something. So customers owe her $4,000, so that's debtors. So back up to our assets. So we had motor vehicle, $6,000, building, $15,000, and then debtors owed her $4,000. So that's 21 and 4, that's $25,000. And then we subtract our liabilities, which we got $3,500. So that's a total of $21,500. And then we add that to what she had in the bank of $10,000. So our total would be $31,500. C would be the answer. Let's go to 25. Which of the following will result when opening inventories of raw materials are added to net purchases of raw materials? So we know that is A says prime cost, B production cost, C raw material use. No, D would be the answer. Raw materials available for use. Let's go to number 26. It says here, item 26 refers to the following data which pertain to Tarisha Ali, an employee of a bank. Monthly salary $3,500, overtime $800. Income tax rate, here we see some information, 25% on every dollar above $2,000 of monthly salary, 30% on overtime earned. So they ask us, this says the total income tax to be deducted from Tarisha Ali's salary is, so what do we do? All right, so they say the monthly salary is $3,500. Down in our bit of information, $2,000 of monthly salary. So we deduct that 2,000 from that 3,000, and then we would find 25% as it says of that. So that's 3,500, we take 2,000 from that, that's $1,500, and we find 25% of that. We get $375. And some more information, it says 30% on overtime earned. So 30% of $800, that's what? $240. And we would add those two figures, 375 and 240. That would give us a $615. Let's move on to number 27. Mr. A. Jones paid $250 in cash for repairs to machinery. This transaction was entered in the cash book and posted to the ledger. The double entry involved would be, so we're going to do a little exercise. I want you to tell me the answer for this in the comment section below, and I'll respond to your answer. 28 says, how does an increase in bad debts affect a sole trader's financial statements? We know that it decreases the net profit, so C would be the answer. Let's go to 29. It says, which of the following items are not recorded in the appropriation account? 1. Interest on loans from partners. 2. Interest on capital. 3. Withdrawals by partners. So we know it would be 1. Interest on loans from partners. That's not recorded in the appropriation account. And 3. Withdrawals by partners. 2 would be recorded, but 1 and 3 not recorded. So the answer would be B. Let's take our final question for this paper. It says, which of the following entries in a 3-column cash book are contra entries? 3-column cash book are contra entries. So is it A, debit cash, credit bank, B, debit cash, credit cash, C, credit cash, credit bank, or D, debit bank, credit bank? I also want you to get involved in the activity to help prepare you for the exam. So let me know also the answer for this in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching.